Well, it's the 4th of July, and I expect there will be a lot of fireworks across America. Not just, the normal kind of fireworks that people, shoot off in celebration, but also the fireworks of excitement and violence and all sorts of unrest. I'm sure that a lot of the so-called protesters have just been dying for the 4th of July to come around so that they could carry out all sorts of stunts. I really wonder, how many statues will be pulled down today. I'm sure that, there were some organizers who were saving certain statues to tear down today to make a statement. Although, there is the possibility that, there's just no violence today at all, and that things are pretty calm, and that maybe they're burnt out or they're intimidated by, the federal government's threats to prosecute people who are tearing down statues and stuff. So, there's a possibility that I'm completely off base here, but I think it's okay for me to take a risk and make a prediction every once in a while, and if I'm wrong, I'll talk about it tomorrow, what actually did end up happening. But, Trump's speech last night at Mount Rushmore, it seems like it was building up to something. And I don't just mean building up to something that Trump's going to do. I feel like it's building up to something that the left will do. I think that there has to be a response to this. They can't just let him have the last word. Trump, I think, did a very good job and made a big statement last night. I don't know if the speech was written by Pat Buchanan, but it was something that was akin to what I've been saying he needed to do for a while now. He needed to come out and make the kind of speech that he made last night. He hit on a lot of important themes. He mentioned the Cultural Revolution. He talked about how, very basic stuff like, hey, you shouldn't tear down monuments to our great heroes. They did a lot of great things. You focus on bad things. That's not how history works, blah, blah, blah. Very basic stuff. But it's basic stuff that has to be repeated. Or else, because if the only people talking on TV are the folks saying that, well, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, so he's a bad guy. There's nothing good about Thomas Jefferson or any of the founding fathers, I guess except for Hamilton, because there's a musical about him. But other than Hamilton, who was the worst statist of all the founding fathers, they're all bad. And everyone who came after the founding fathers are bad too, because they weren't woke. So the 4th of July, somehow in only a year, I think, went from being a pretty universal holiday in America that everyone celebrated. You would think about it would be more widely celebrated than something even like Christmas, because not everyone in America is Christian. There's a lot of people who are Jewish or something else like that. Small percentages of the population each, but I mean they add up to quite a lot of people. 4th of July, though, is something that everyone used to participate in. But now, apparently, 4th of July seems to become a partisan issue. The president going and having this, very, ordinarily I would criticize this sort of event that the president's doing as just being overly jingoistic, and in poor taste, just because I'm not really into all of that. I'm not into flag waving, I'll put it that way. But at a time like this, it's actually very understandable because, normally I just think of it as a meaningless gesture to go out there and wave a flag or something like that. But at a time when, large swaths of the country apparently, have no respect or, I guess, admiration for, the U.S. and its history, I could understand why a patriotic American would feel the need to go out and make these very overt sort of gestures. I understand why they would, Trump would need to feel the need to go to Mount Rushmore and make a very patriotic speech and watch, a giant fireworks display. Because, if people weren't doing this, it doesn't just go without saying that, people love America. It's important now at this time, for people who actually are, patriotic to demonstrate that it's still okay to feel that way. Or else, your normies who just sort of go with the flow will think, oh, okay, I guess America's not cool anymore, so I hate America too. You have to actually, the trend is, there's no longer a set trend in America. We're at a crossroads. Moving forward, people are either going to, hate the idea of the United States, or people are going to like it. And so there's a cultural battle going on right now, and a much more basic cultural battle than existed. Just a couple of years ago, when we used to talk about the culture war, it was stuff like, hey, is it okay for gays to get married at all? Sure that they're going to be doing it, having their own ceremony. It won't be in my church, but are we really okay with gay people having weddings, period? That used to be like the culture war issue, or stuff like, hey, that reefer stuff that Johnny was smoking back in high school, that stuff's pretty bad, right? Should we really be letting people do that, or is it maybe not that bad? We'll let them make their own decisions. Okay, we're well beyond that. We're to the point of, is America evil or is America great? That's your culture war issue now. It's pretty remarkable how fast things have moved in the last, just very few years. And I have to say, even though I don't think that it's likely that the tide can be turned at this point, and that there's going to be a resurgence in sort of an American national identity or anything like that, I think that that is politically unfeasible because of the structure of our government. People are just going to, will naturally conflict too much over their political ideas, and so therefore it will be impossible to forge any sort of a common national identity. But with that said, we might see I think we're going to see a last gasp of American patriotism, but it will be a partisan form of patriotism. And, if we have a two-party system, and the two parties are the patriotic party and the unpatriotic party, not only does that really, not have much to do with actual real-life policies that affect people's lives, but it represents that, you don't have a country anymore. And I have to say, the DNC has made it pretty clear that they are, going hard on the, straight up unpatriotic road. And I'm not someone who throws that word around and thinks that, just because someone disagrees with me, they're unpatriotic. No, that tweet that the DNC deleted about Mount Rushmore and 4th of July sounded pretty much like they're saying that 4th of July and Mount Rushmore and all that is racist. And of course, racism is just code for something I don't like. So if they're saying that these things are racist, they're saying, well, we don't like the 4th of July, we don't like Mount Rushmore, and that's a nice way of saying that they don't like America. And the funny thing is I was never a big fan of Mount Rushmore at all, because I knowing the history of it and how it was, this really weird jingoistic monument from the progressive era, by the way, built by progressives, with a progressive president's face etched into it. Teddy Roosevelt was the president at the time. Mount Rushmore was was sort of a part of the whole new nationalism that Teddy Roosevelt brought about, where we had a strong central government and a powerful presidency. Things that, people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson would have disagreed with. And of course, the other face on the statue other than Washington, Jefferson, and Roosevelt was Lincoln. And Lincoln was there because, he kept the Union together, which again is also something I'm not really a big fan of. But I definitely am not on the side, of this, of the anti-Mount Rushmore people who want to have it sandblasted, just like people wanted to sandblast Stone Mountain. I think it's kind of funny. I actually think that Mount Rushmore is going to help protect Stone Mountain, because they went so quickly from wanting to sandblast Stone Mountain, which, for those of you who don't know, is a big rock in Georgia. I guess it was a meteor or something. I don't really understand why there's a big giant rock in Georgia. But they carved a mural of I believe it's Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and who's the third general? I believe there's 3 Confederate generals on there, or maybe it's Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis. But no, I think they're all 3 on horses. It's been a long time. I was at Stone Mountain like a decade ago. I think in 2009 actually is when I was in Stone Mountain. It's a very nice park and a very nice monument. Of course, it's a Confederate monument. It's a giant Confederate monument. To my knowledge, it's the biggest Confederate monument in the world. But again, even if you disagree with these things, just like I disagree with the history of Mount Rushmore, and that I'm not a fan of the progressive era, I don't want to tear down Mount Rushmore. It's a very important historical landmark. And, all of these cultural revolutionary types, the people who, the Maoists who just want to smash history, they need to be the ones who were smashed. Rhetorically speaking, of course, I'm not saying you hurt people. So the revolution continues, I guess. I don't think we're to the point still to where today you'll see any right-wingers out in the streets counteracting these people, but I think that might be coming. The way Trump was talking last night, it was a much more of a defensive posture he was taking. He was not calm and measured. He made it clear that these people are the enemy. They are the enemies of America, and that people need to stand up against them. And the more he talks like that, people will be willing to do that. And so I think that this era that we've been in of one-sided, Antifa destruction might be coming to an end at some point. People might feel empowered now. They might feel like they're not alone in not wanting the statues to come down, and they might be able to go and, counter-protest, let's say. People just not even, bring guns or anything like that, just lock arms around a statue and say, you're not tearing this one down. So that's about all I have to say. So I guess if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day, and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.